Welcome back, folks, to the Mel Wright Show. This is episode 182. We've got a great special guest. We've got Scott Hoen of TitleCapture. Scott, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan and Robert. I'm happy that I connected with you and your podcast followers. I've looked at and listened to a couple of yours, and you guys provide a ton of value to those people that are listening to you. So I've been fortunate to be in the title insurance industry for, over 25 years. I started out for a couple of years with a title agency, and then I jumped with a major underwriter from the East Coast and spent 5 years there, developed a lot of the technology tools that real estate professionals use, internet property profiles. And then Fidelity captured me and was with the Fidelity system for 13 years in Southern California, and then worked the national technology platforms that they had, like the MLS, Paragon platform, agent office, broker office, the back office accounting systems. And then I jumped to First American for the past 8 years and started in sales management again, working on my way all the way up into the corporate office marketing, helping our direct sales team across the country. So quite a bit of experience working with real estate agents, brokers, mortgage professionals, attorneys, helping them with the business and understanding what title insurance is all about, but ultimately providing the tools and systems that they can use.
Yes, Scott has only got a little bit of experience about technology. We're going to be talking a bit about TitleCapture, why it's a bit different than some of the other tools. And then in the second half, we're going to be talking in general on some of the trends and things Scott thinks is going to happen around technology and real estate. And I've got my great co-host, Robert Newman. He's had some few technical problems today. Can you quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers, Robert?
Sure. What if I want to take a long time, though? No, I'm just kidding. My name is Robert Newman. I am the founder of Inbound Real Estate Marketing. Very similar to our guest this morning, I've got many, many years of experience inside the real estate technology sector, specifically as it relates to online marketing. And if you want to learn more about me, you could always go to my website.
That's great. So, Scott, tell us a bit about TitleCapture and what you think of some of the things it offers that some of the competition doesn't.
Yeah, thank you. The platform itself, TitleCapture.com, has been used by right now over 1,000 title agencies across the United States, and they put their closing costs, rates, fees into that to be as close and as accurate as possible when it comes to closing a transaction. So every real estate agent needs a net sheet. Their buyer wants to know what the monthly payment is or what the down payment's going to be after all the closing costs associated with that transaction. Sellers want to know what they want to net out of the transaction. Maybe you want to compare rent versus buy in terms of that decision, what that break-even point is. So TitleCapture is a platform that has been used in the past by real estate professionals, mortgage professionals, title agencies to generate these net sheets, these closing estimates, with all the associated fees in that local market area, even down to the tax prorations in terms of who pays buyer or seller, or who pays buyer or seller on the title insurance side in that local market. They also just recently introduced at Inman the new tool that's associated with TitleCapture called NetSheet. And netsheet.com is a way that a real estate professional can literally put a widget on their website and get connected directly to consumers. So consumers can run that net sheet themselves now, and it ends up being a lead for the real estate professional.
Oh, that sounds
okay,
great.
So I want to make sure that I understand this, because I'm actually pretty fascinated. So if I understood, I did read the notes before the meeting today, and if I'm understanding it correctly, if you, let's say, have a WordPress website and you're talking to your audience about the closing costs on a transaction, you can install the widget that this site offers, and then your prospective users can go to your website, let's say on a blog post about closing costs, and then get the actual closing costs or an estimate of the closing costs for their transaction in their particular state. Am I understanding that right?
You're right on. So when you go to netsheet.com, and a real estate professional can register for free and have the tool, they'll go into their profile, upload their photo and their contact information, and then they'll have that little embed code there. that they can put on their site. So the reason why a real estate professional gets it for free is when they register or sign up, they pick the title company or title agency they work with because they want that company's closing costs to come in directly to their site. They don't have to. They can use generic estimated costs, or they can build their own costs. But a lot of the agents like to directly connect with their title company, so they get that advertising, branding, and that's ultimately who's paying for it in terms of making sure that their fees are more accurately put into that closing cost estimate.
Interesting. That's pretty clever. That's pretty fascinating.
So it really never has been done in terms of, it's now allowing a real estate agent to drive more traffic to their website. It's another reason for an agent to drive traffic to their website, just like you guys do. And if the buyer or seller wants to say, gosh, what would be my, net, or what would be my buyer cost in that transaction, they can fill out that quick estimate and it ends up becoming a lead for that real estate professional. So we give them a back-end tool, but a lot of people want that data to go directly into their CRM platform, whether it be Boomtown, whatever it may be. So we have some APIs that if you want to have that conversation, we can do that too.
Okay. And you are the founder of this company, or?
Nope. I've been with NetSheet TitleCapture for about 6 months. The ownership the company's actually located in Miami, Florida. It's been around for 5 years. The president, owner, founder is Keith Circoni, and kind of innovative in terms of getting connected to all these title agencies with their fees. Most of these small title companies across the United States don't have real estate marketing or title websites or fee schedules like this, so it makes their job easier.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's not involved. It's just a special niche, right? So it's not the settlement software systems. It's just, the information before that transaction even starts.
Okay. And they're pulling the data from like various title companies all over the United States, and that's how they're getting their estimates or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And do you have any idea how accurate it is? Like, is it a 5%, 10%, 20% like rate of error, like margin of error when you're getting the estimate, or?
It's probably within a couple of $100 of the actual closing costs. It can be as accurate as you want it to be. So for example, if you pick a First American relationship all over the country, we pull their title and escrow fees directly from their First American calculator. So that's 100% accurate. So same thing with Old Republic. So some of these APIs we have is just 100% accurate to the day that their calculator is accurate to. Some of the title companies, we upload their rate schedules, but then you can get real specific. Do you have home warranty? Do you have natural hazard disclosure? Do you have notary fees? Do you have document recording fees? You can't be perfect. It's an estimate. So a lot of times, you're going to guess that, hey, it may be a $200 recording, fees, based on the number of pages that may be in that average transaction, but it's close and you can get as accurate as you want. So you can give consumers the choice to put in a commission rate, but then the real estate agent can say, you know what, I just want it to be 3% and 3%. So it's a total of 6. But it can be as accurate as you want, and you can actually save templates. So it makes it easier.
Okay. Interesting.
John? Oh, thanks. So what's the reception been, and what's been some of the surprises since you've joined the company?
It's been great. So they released the NetSheet tool at Inman Startup Alley this past couple of weeks in New York. And, the offer that ownership has been made is they're saying, we're going to give away to the first 25,000 agents this tool. And they've gotten 15,000 agents already. And that means free for however long they want to use that widget. If we get past that 25,000 agent total, then an agent can get the NetSheet widget on their page forever. But if they generate more than 100 leads a month, then I think it's $10 a month that they pay if they want to keep getting those leads. The surprising thing that we found is a lot of these agents want to get the lead immediately when an address is put in. So we're going through some improvements within the next couple of weeks to do that. So if someone puts in an accurate address that we match and we tie to Google to do that, then we're going to make that a lead rather than even filled out that form or not. That's one. And the other thing, obviously, is everybody's coming up saying, this is great, but I don't want another CRM or another back-end platform to use. Can you put my leads in Wise Agent or Top Producer or Boomtown? And the answer is yes. We met with Boomtown, and they're receptive to make that happen. So it's not that complicated for us to take our data and just dump it into their CRM.
Oh,
So
really
two good things we found out.
So you, in our pre-show chat, you said that the company was originally didn't have a lot of experience in title. What moved them into?
They came from the financial services industry, more on the mortgage side rather than on the direct real estate side. And they just found this niche that really has been underserved directly by the real estate agents. And when they started talking more and more to the title agents that they've connected to, a lot of these settlement software systems have the ability to generate a net sheet or a closing estimate, but it's just more complicated. They make it complicated. So if you're a title agent and you want to use and create a net sheet, a lot of times you have to use that settlement platform, open an order to do the estimate, and then you got to cancel the order or close that order. Well, you don't want to open an order and cancel an order. It raises red flags for audit reasons, things like that. And it's just more clicks, more, So a lot of times, let's say a buyer is in an open house and the real estate professional wants to give them that, hey, here's your monthly and here's your closing costs. But if they wanted to kind of reverse net, say, gosh, I can only afford $3,000 a month rather than $4,000 a month. What could I afford to buy? Well, those estimates still need to be generated, but they need to be generated quickly. So our tool allows them to save it and open it and revise it. And it's also mobile optimized. It's mobile friendly. It's not really an app, but you can open TitleCapture and netsheet.com on any mobile device, and it'll look just like the website and work just like the website. So they've been smart about it and just keeping it simple.
So what did you think, Robert? I thought it was exciting. That's why I asked Scott to come on the show. I thought it was really very interesting.
Well, I'm actually unusually fascinated by this because, and I don't usually, every now and again I talk about my company, but part of what we do, Scott, is, so my company does SEO, and as part of that, we oftentimes are doing blog posts. One of my blog posts that I do for every single client in every single city is one on closing costs, because I've discovered 12 years of being in this business, one of the things that people are searching for on Google as it relates to real estate is always, what are my closing costs going to be when I close this transaction in this area? Because more and more often in the world that we live in, everybody wants all of the answers long before they get to the bargaining table. They want to know, am I going to pay $6,000 or whatever it is, whatever the number is, they want to know as close as you can get it. And so doing a blog post about all the possible fees in a particular city, and obviously you know this better than I do even, that the cities, the fees vary territory to territory, county to county, city to city. So it's very confusing.
And who pays for what fee, right? So in some places the buyer pays for title, in some places the seller pays for title.
Right. So I'm also exceptionally fascinated, not just from a intellectual perspective, but actually depending on how the widget operates. I literally have like 20 existing clients with existing blog posts that are ranking fairly well on Google, that are all talking about closing costs. And a widget like this would go a long way in terms of increasing the value of the blog post, because the more information that you can provide in today's content marketing world, the better that piece of content probably is going to perform inside of Google. So a widget like this, which I had never heard of, and I was like, am I reading that right? Do I even understand? Like, am I truly understanding the concept here? And so I'm fascinated.
And what we found is, I mean, we do hundreds of thousands of closing costs every month. I mean, it's probably near a million. And it's amazing how many people do that kind of what if analysis, right? Well, what would my cost be if I bought something at $400,000? What would it be if I was at $350,000? or just looking at the sales price. Gosh, if I sell it for $500,000, what am I actually going to cash net out of it after when I pay off my mortgages, things like that. So one thing you could do, I recommend you do, Robert, is I've linked netsheetcalculator.com to kind of a demo site. So just go to netsheetcalculator.com and it will come up with like a sample realtor page, but you'll see the widget in the very bottom right corner. And you can see kind of how easily it is to navigate. So the consumer, the home buyer or seller, can either get an email of the net sheet, can get a printout right then and there. And if they're really interested, they can click on a link to say, hey, my name and my phone number, my email address, that kind of thing.
So the net sheet calculator, I'm looking at something that says widget.netsheet.com/demo PHP.
Yeah.
I'm looking at what you get, right? That's what you're showing me is this is so here's the estimate.
So if you look at the very bottom right corner, it will say buying or selling. Click on that and open it up, and then you can navigate through that kind of demo or what that widget looks like. And the great thing about the widget is you can match your colors of the widget to the colors of your website too. So you can, this one isn't, but you can.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
We're going to go for our break, folks. When we come back, we're going to be discussing with Scott some of the trends and the way he sees in general technology is going to be moving in 2019. It should be a fascinating discussion. It already has been. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had a fascinating discussion with Scott about TitleCapture. Even Robert is impressed. So that's high praise.
That's great.
That's high praise.
Well, I've listened to Robert and some of his analysis, good and bad analysis of some of the internet providers out there, whether it be the Boomtown, Real Geeks himself, real estate webmasters, and your stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. Does that apply to me? Or
yours. The great thing about yours is just simple, right? And real estate agents, that's.
It's got a bit complicated, but we're trying to keep it as reasonably simple as possible. I don't know how successful, but I think we've done a reasonable job compared to some of the products out there. So, Scott, what are some of the technology trends or trends in general in the real estate industry that you think you've noticed recently and interesting to you?
I think two things. I'm seeing more and more real estate professionals go with an all-encompassing solution similar to what the two offerings you guys make. So they want to go to one place that do everything, whether it be from the website all the way to the back end. And there are expensive systems out there, and there is reasonable systems. So I see, agents don't want to go to here's my CRM and here's my website and here's my Facebook advertise. They just want something simple that's all integrated and well done. And I think both of you guys do that well. And I see more of the internet providers trying to do that, come up with that. And I see more and more of them, integrating with one another in terms of data flow in and out. That's one thing. I see more people using the data that's available to them, whether it be from Black Knight or CoreLogic or First American Database Solutions. They're becoming more sophisticated with data and the use of data. That's one other one. Then lastly, with all the things that are going on with the iBuyer program, whether it be Open Door, whether it be Zillow, it'll be interesting to see if the consumer will want to pay the higher convenience commission rate, whether it be 7%, 10%, 12% for that transaction. I'm sure there'll be some, and I'm sure there'll be some market for that. When I see this bubble coming, I personally, when you look at all the cycles over the number of years and you try to think of what's next, is there'll be the foreclosures, there's going to be a downturn in the economy. I think the next big bubble is going to be more of the baby boomers retiring or baby boomers passing on and leaving their estate or leaving their house to the younger generation. When my parents grew up and bought a house, they grew up and paid off that house. And there's a lot of hidden equity there. And when they pass on, the younger generation, the millennials, are going to not keep that house. They're going to probably sell it and, pay off credit card debt, student loans, whatever. So I think there's a huge opportunity on the probate side or the living trust side. I mean, there's a ton of property out there with value that I think is going to turn at some point in time. So just different markets, different ways you can approach markets. People are staying in their houses longer, so real estate agents are becoming a little bit more creative in terms of how they make that connection. But what you guys do in terms of trying to reach out to those people, whether it be SEO or Facebook, and incubate those leads and stay connected to those leads, it's so important for real estate professionals to do that. And you just can't turn it on and quit, a couple of months later. You got to, it's a long-term game. So
I want to, John, do you mind if I jump in? Do you have it? I might.
Please do.
Okay. So I just want to run our listeners. So I've faithfully gone to the demo page that Scott directed me to, and I've entered in the house that I live in information, the total value of the house, I just entered in some number for the sell-off fee. And so what this widget has done is it kicked out title charges, which is escrow fees, document fees, eDoc fees, loan tie-in fee, messenger fees, and loan sign-up fee, all of which were maybe $500 total. The interesting thing is that the recording and transfer fees are here, which was more like $37.24. And then it also gave me a payoff amount, and then it netted me. It put into a separate bucket what the real estate agent's commission would be, and then it put into another bucket on top of that what the county taxes would be, which is $5,608 in this extremely false demo thing that I put in, and then it says at the very bottom what the net proceeds to the seller is, and at the bottom of that you have a disclaimer, and then you have a let's talk, print, email, and edit.
Actually, Robert, can you share your screen, and so when people come and watch this video, they can actually see it?
Sure. I think I can.
At the bottom, the green is share.
Yeah. Well, no, because I'm actually on this ridiculous do it out of Zoom kind of thing.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Sorry.
I installed it though. So let's see if I can do it now. Let's see. Continue. Allow. Get rid of the adult content. Just kidding. All right.
There we go.
So here we go. There we go. All right. Now here's the demo.
So we see your desktop right now.
We only see seen your desktop. We're not seeing the browser.
Hold on. How about now?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. So then, so you see here that so nobody show up to my house, please. This is my address, my closing date, which is obviously just based on probably an average closing date, like how long would it take to close, and it's estimating it at about 4 weeks.
We set it at a month for the demo, but you can set it whatever you want it to be.
Okay, so I'm identifying that there's no homeowners association, no property tax proration, no other seller's expenses, and I click calculate. And this is what I was talking to everybody about, this number right here. So you can see here the seller nets approximately. Here's the sales price, the escrow, like the fees that I was mentioning to you, and the parts that I'm exceptionally fascinated with is the transfer tax, the real estate agent's commission, because obviously I feel like a homeowner or person getting ready to sell their home would probably want to know this stuff, even though we all know basically what the commissions are. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting to see them right in front of you. The number, I think, is a little bit more stark than when you're entering into a negotiation. It's like, oh, gee, I'm going to pay somebody $40,000. And in the case where I have $500,000 of note left, mortgages, essentially, yeah, I'm going to net $115,000, which means that technically, if this was a real calculation, it's now really apparent to me that my agent is going to make $40,000 and I'm going to make $115,000. That would be a number that if I was really doing this, if it was a real example, those would numbers that I personally would be wildly interested in, because I'd want to know what the split was, what the state was getting, what the county was getting. It would affect my decision, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the share, but I think it's a pretty cool widget.
Yes, you can get as specific as in your particular market area as you want. So you basically build a template and make sure that the appropriate costs for your particular local market area come in, and you can change it anytime you want.
Yes, and folks, if you join us live on our Facebook page, Mailrite USA, you would have been able to see that demo. Or if you go to the Mailrite show, Mailrite website, mail-rite.com, there'll be a full set of show notes with the video, so you'll be able to see the demo. To get back to what you were saying, Scott, so, iBuyer, what Zillow's up to, do you think that this is partially connected to historically a rather artificial market that we've seen for over 12 to almost 13 years, including a bubble, a very unusual bust, and then a semi-inflation, smaller bubble, but inflation again? Do you think that is some of the reasons for iBuy and some of the other?
Maybe a little, but I was interested when I attended the CEO Connect at the Inman event. There was one company there that was talking about kind of his trade-in program, and I think he's based in Atlanta. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but they've done I think 4,000 transactions over a relatively short period of time that basically said, hey, I want to sell my house and then I want to buy a house. And they facilitated the whole transaction in terms of, picked up the property. It's almost like a trade-in. And they envision the future to be kind of like the car market kind of thing. If you want to make it easy, you want to trade in your house and go buy another one. And that's what they're trying to do. So it even went one step further than the iBuyer program. Just interesting concept. And we'll see if that plays out.
But you pay for that, don't you?
You pay. You definitely. Well, and to Robert's point, when the seller sees that amount of commission they have to pay on selling that house, that was at 6% probably. Gosh, what if that was 12%? Well, you're not going to net very much, right? So maybe they wouldn't want to do that then after they see it.
And go on, Robert.
I'm sorry. I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction, or I have a slightly different question, which is, so when you partnered with this company, Scott, and because I have a very similar background to you, so my perception of your role is kind of like a very well-connected upper echelon sales resource, somebody that could probably figure out a way to market this broadly to the demographic that the technology provider is aiming for.
Right.
So when you're talking to them about coming on board and partnering with them, what was your original vision for how you were going to get this? Like, what did you originally think to yourself? Like, how am I going to market this product to real estate agents and brokers?
Great question. So, of the 1,000, 1,200 agents they work with, the American Land Title Association will tell you there are probably 20,000 agents out there. Reality, I think they're more than 10. They're probably more like 10 or 12,000 that really do the numbers. So they probably got, a 10% share of the market from a title agency point of view. They weren't in the direct title market at all. So I think there's an opportunity in the direct title side, but to connect TitleCapture and NetSheet to the Boomtown, the Real Geeks, the Syncs, yourself, Jonathan, Mailrite, to connect the tool to you guys, because you guys are driving traffic to the agent's website, which is better than an agent buying, a Zillow lead for $170 or $225 that has got a 2%, 4% chance of converting. And you guys do a far better job getting consumers there. You just need to generate some more interest, and this is a tool to do that. So to connect to your partners that you talk about all the time, that's why I see the vision going. And then who knows, there may be a sales channel with the MLS directly. They started having some of those conversations, but it really is, it gets lost with the MLS. You guys know how to use the tools.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, John. What were you going to say?
Not as interesting as your question. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, folks. Scott's agreed to stay on for another 10, 12 minutes, and we're continuing our discussion how he sees the market and some of the new technologies. Scott, how can people find out more about you and your product and service?
Yeah, you can reach me at my email address at scott@TitleCapture.com. So scott@TitleCapture.com, or my direct cell line, 714-270-9607. Or you can always go to my Drift site and schedule or calendar an appointment with me. So that's drift.me/TitleCapture, and connect with me there.
It's an easy man to get hold of. Robert, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to, Robert?
Listen to our podcast. No, I'm just kidding. They can go to inboundrem.com, and all the more information than you ever would want to know about me and real estate technology in general is all there, especially real estate technology platforms, which is what Scott tuned into. I do a lot of really super in-depth reviews, so if any of our listeners are curious to get more information on the platforms first, that would be a good place to go. But I got to say, I haven't used it, and I like to use stuff before but I will say that in terms of technology that I've looked at, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here if this widget doesn't work right, but I am gonna say it looks real interesting to me, and that if there are some people out there with blogs that they know are driving a lot of traffic, this might be something that they want to look at.
And folks, that's high praise.
Thanks, Robert.
If you want, go to the MailRight website, mail-right.com. There's over 100 previous interviews and internal shows where me and Robert talk about technology. It's a great resource on its own. If you want a free demo, a walkthrough of MailRight, just go to the About page and you can book a day and time that suits you. And I will personally show you the feature set of MailRight and walk through it. And it's not a sales call, it's a demo. And I leave it to you to decide if MailRight is something that you would be interested in. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Thanks for listening. Next week, we'll hopefully have a guest or internal show that will offer you great value to make your real estate business even more profitable for you and your family in 2019. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye. So just to continue the discussion, so anything else that Inman, any things that you saw, products and services that you thought was interesting, Scott?
You know, nothing that stands out. I mean, I see more and more people getting into the text game, right? You know, people getting into the bots, people getting into the automated response. You know, the agents have just got to be careful and make sure they keep it personal. That's all. I mean, it's all relationships, and you can't let automation do everything. So at some point in time, you just got to jump in to some of that. That's the only thing caution I would give that, but nothing that stands out. Nothing. I mean, I think Brad Inman was trying to do little things a little bit differently in terms of different perspectives. I mean, they actually had, Compass talk to the Realogy, leads right there in terms of their different perspectives in the market. And, they're all in a recruiting mode to get as many agents as they can to work on their side of the shop. EXP is an up and coming, and, they had a platform to discuss that in terms of what agent compensation is. And if anything, I've heard more and more all these, whether it be the KWs, EXP, Realogy or Compass. I mean, they're all promising, and they're all saying they're going to give the agents these great technology tools and platforms. And I always see agents reaching out and connecting more to your two systems, let's say, rather than going with the corporate tool. Number one, they want to control, their destiny. They want to control their tools. And you guys got good platforms that are simple and easy to use rather than go with the company line. So it'll just be interesting to see how that all plays out.
So I'm do either one of you mind if I kind of get on a soapbox for maybe 60 seconds?
Go
Because
for it.
you're touching on something, Scott, that I have been trying to look for the opening to say, because I haven't gone to Inman Connect or any of these big things. I used to, by the way. I was very, again, our backgrounds is very similar. I used to attend these trade shows and KW family reunions, and the list goes on and on. I had to be there because I was a senior sales executive for, a real estate marketing company. So,
Yeah.
you go. But the thing that I've noticed is that all these major companies, you're absolutely right, they're pushing people into these tools. And once they own your data inside their toolkit, they own you. In addition, and this is driving me crazy, all those companies have a philosophy of building high volume, low quality leads, which means, by the way, in layman's terms, that you actually need a really sophisticated tool set to get the top value out of a low quality lead. All these follow-ups, bots, chats, you name it. But the funny thing is if you manage to figure out a way to generate, let's say, a higher level of interest, not necessarily going for 1,000 leads, but maybe 10 or 15, but now you've got video and they really know you at the time that they register with your site. The funny thing is that all the traditional marketing brouhaha that is being taught in real estate right now does not apply, because you don't need a chat bot. You don't need a massive follow-up system or a CRM, because the person is already kind of sold on you. So you don't need to call them in 10 minutes or text them in 2 seconds. It's not bad to do any of those things. It's professional. However, you don't need to. It's not 100% necessary, because the person is kind of sold on your expertise by the time they reach out. It's like getting a referral, as an example.
Yep.
If your grandmother, I don't know, if somebody says to you, you really need to speak to this person before you do a real estate transaction, you probably got a couple of days by the time you reach out, if you came in on a strong referral, before that person is going to make a decision. I'm not saying that you should take it, but let's just say,
Right.
fate intervenes and you just can't get the call out right away. It takes you a day to get back to that person. On a high level, high degree of interest, that person is going to wait to talk to you before they pull the trigger on it. Like I'm looking at my thing right here on a $39,000 decision. I'm sorry, but people are not running around ready to make that kind of decision instantaneously.
Yep.
So build a higher level of credibility, and you've got a very good chance of you don't necessarily need the toolkits that are being presented to you as the world's best solution. I guess that's what I'm saying. What do you think? I'm going to use John's line. What do you think about that, Scott?
No, I think you're right. I mean, you need to be the mayor of your city. You need to be the expert of your neighborhood or community. You need to know the schools, the restaurants, you need to know all that information, because that's what the buyers want to know. Sellers will end up becoming buyers of property. So if you're the expert, they're going to rely on wait for you as being the expert, and they want that expert, especially if they're going to pay that kind of money for it. I agree.
Okay.
Totally agree.
Interesting.
But, in some ways, it's been a long journey for my mail because I entered the industry with absolutely no knowledge about it at all. And over the 3 years of doing the podcast, it's been education for myself, actually, Scott. And when I started with Mailrite, the original 2 bits of it are still in the system. But like what I said to you before our pre-show discussion is I've added the landing page and the email and text system. But I've also, like to say, it's got a bit more complicated, but one of my main requirements was to keep it reasonably simple compared to some of the other systems. And not to be unfair to the other systems, a lot of them are really aimed at the brokerage level, a corporate brokerage tool.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of finish off question is, I'm not too sure with what we've seen with iBuyer. I think the kind of franchise large brokerage model, they are kind of semi under threat. But other people say that their basic model of getting a lot of part-time agents that might sell 6 to maybe 10 houses a year is still quite a successful model. What's your thoughts about that?
It's half of the agents in the MLS probably haven't done any transactions. Everybody talks about 20% of the agents do 80% of the transactions. I think it's more like 10% of the agents do 90% of the transactions. I think agents are trying to maximize their compensation. That's why EXP has been interesting to them, because the Realogy and all those other companies have got bricks and mortar that they got to pay for, where EXP is more the remote, the virtual type brokerage. So everybody's trying to figure it out. I think you're going to get more to Robert's point. People are going to get into a niche or their specialty, and maybe they'll be independent. Maybe they don't need the resources of the larger franchises. Maybe it's the newer agents that need that, and maybe they create their own brand. I do think that there'll always be a need for real estate professionals. It's an important transaction, and someone's needed to be the negotiator of the deal. There'll always be direct title sales reps, because someone's got to close the transactions. 25% of all the transactions have problems with them that they have to resolve, whether it be property taxes or income tax or federal taxes or child support liens or whatever it may be. And so there'll always be need for people to close these transactions and work with people directly. So I don't think it's going to be automated like a lot of people think. Everybody's saying, oh gosh, blockchain's going to change the world. And I just don't. It's just too much of a personal transaction.
Funny enough, I totally agree with what your view there, and I'm in technology, but I totally agreed with everything you said there. We're going to wrap up the show now, folks. It's been a fantastic discussion. We're going to have Scott back during the year. It's been a great discussion, Scott. Thanks for coming on the show. You really showed your immense experience of the industry.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great conversation with you guys. Great to meet you guys.
We'll be back next week, folks. Bye.
Ciao.